What's up, guys? Next week, The Ringer will host their first ever crossover live podcast featuring Ryan Russillo from Dual Threat and Kevin Clark and Robert Mays from The Ringer NFL show. They'll be at Caesars Palace in Las Vegas on November 12th after the Monday Night Football game. For more info and links to tickets, check out The Ringer's Twitter and Instagram.
Basketball is very good. Anthony Davis will win the MVP this year. The Hawks trading Doncic was a smart move. What if the Cavs are better without LeBron? Basketball is very good.
Hello, it's the Ringer NBA show, and this is Group Chat. My name is Chris Ryan. I'm joined by Justin Verrier.
Hi.
Paolo Uggetti.
I feel like that gets longer every time.
I'm working on a bit. Haley O'Shaughnessy.
Group Chat, sponsored by Boston.
But should I do the entire episode as a character from The Departed, since we have to make up for our Boston snub from our tears? I see you, Boston. You're not better than ya. They aren't better than they are. They're 6-4. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Celtics. We're going to talk a little bit about the Lakers. And then we're going to talk about a piece that Justin Verrier wrote on the ringer.com about what makes a good League Pass team and why the Lakers might be the best League Pass team we've ever had.
Excellent writer.
Let's talk a little bit about these 6-4 Boston Celtics to start with. And the incredibly not mad online Kyrie Irving, who loves to let younger players thrive. And apparently is just a real stickler for the old rules of basketball.
Yeah, who knew?
I support this.
Not the old
Who knew
rules
that he
of
follows
gravity.
all tradition? Yeah, just believes in history.
He's multidimensional.
What do you guys think of Boston so far this year? Is this a case of perception where it's like this is a 6-4 team, just like the Sixers are 7-5, just like tons of teams are 6-4 and 7-5, and they've got some sputtering going on, but they're getting there.
I think the assumption is that they're going to get better.
Yeah, well,
I mean that's always the assumption. You have so many talented players on that team. At the same time, I think that there's also this looming, like maybe post All-Star, maybe right before, where we're going to find out that someone is extremely unhappy with their playing time.
Could that someone be from Louisville, Kentucky?
So, okay, I'm going to say somebody in the starting lineup.
Okay.
And my vote is Jaylen Brown. I think he's going to be frustrated. We've already seen like a couple times when he has not been chosen to close out games when he feels like he should have. And last year he did. Last year he was in those moments, so that's a tough thing to accept that you have to take a step back.
I think they're kind of boring, which is a bummer considering
That's why we forgot
what they were last season. Like, there was such a fun, scrappy, like, oh, here comes Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown team to like that. We almost like had to like them because it was like impossible not to. Whereas this season, they've kind of just been a little, I don't know, just
they lack effervescence.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I agree with Haley that there's some of that is due to the fact that, you know, who takes fewer shots and whatnot. And part of it was like, this was my take at the beginning, before the season was, I think we're underestimating how much time it's going to take them to gel a little bit. Obviously knowing that like Gordon Hayward, like Kevin O'Connor wrote about on the site this week, like has to be eased back into full health. So I don't know. They're not that interesting to me.
I mean, part of it is because they're playing like the Memphis Grizzlies from like 2012. Yeah. Their defense is elite. And I guess
their offense is 23rd.
Yeah. Like they're pretty much falling back into the
24th.
They're who we thought the Jazz were going to be last season.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I guess there's some reason for optimism for that because they can just rely on their defense and grind out games in November and October, and they'll be fine probably while their offense comes along. At the same time, like I'm not ready to worry about Gordon Hayward yet, but if he is playing like this a month from now, I think they have major concerns because who fills that role?
Brad Stevens is, doles out a lot of minutes to a lot of different players. They're a deep team. I think that there was a certain logic to them, especially weirdly in the playoffs without Kyrie. Not that you would ever say you actually want Terry Rozier over Kyrie Irving, but the next man up thing really works when all those next men have to step up.
Sure.
But if you're just asking all these next men up who know they can play in the league to take 20 minutes a game, 18 minutes a game, 15 minutes a game, and then you've got a lot of strong personalities on the team who are like, I'm going to take the shot when I get it. And then you got guys like Aaron Baines who have been like liberated to just chuck threes all the time. I just think that
and Marcus Smart,
there's something
who thinks he's God's Steph Curry given gift to earth and will shoot 5 threes no matter what, even if he goes 0 for 5 every time.
Which is like, it's funny. It's like, that's exactly what Sixers fans kind of want Markelle to do. They just want him to play more like Marcus Smart. But this is the flip side of that, is that you have to take a lot of bricks And you have to watch as guys who were like, I would have made that shot, are like, okay, go ahead, get your shots off.
Like there was almost like an innocent spirit about the team last year. Like everyone was fighting toward a collective, like, oh, like let's just prove everybody wrong.
Well, it was
and like
Stevens maximizing the potential of a bunch of like cast-offs.
Well, and we'd see like Yabu and Semi come in for like highly specific things, but it would work. And so that's what made them so charming and exciting. And you just are not the same charming team if your offense isn't exciting.
And what I'm hearing from you guys right now is, when is the internet going to come for Brad Stevens?
Oh my God.
Because he has all the offensive talent in the world, and yet they're, 24th, you said?
Yeah, and isn't 24th. That why we love him? Those exciting plays.
Best defense, 24th in offense. 538 has them at 53-39 projected record now. Westgate closed on them with an over-under of 59 wins. So that's like 5-6 wins less than what they were projected to win.
And I do think like a good like young star player, I think there is a certain level of like maturity, and there's like a different like muscle group that you're flexing when you have this many players that you have to manage. Like Greg Popovich obviously is one of the better tacticians in the league, but he's also one of the best kind of organizers and guys who can get people in their right roles. And I think there's like something to be said about this being a particular challenge for Brad more than anybody else on the team.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, they have eight or nine really good players. And usually with Popovich, when he pulls like, I just yanked all my starters, it's like a bit. But the guys who are coming in, the guys who are around are your Derek Whites, are your Forbeses and your like guys that nobody else knew about until they wound up on San Antonio.
I think that's why, well, exactly. And that was the case last year with Brad.
Yeah.
And all of those people who like literally in the middle of the season we were Googling.
Yeah. Yeah. And Terry, we guys like Terry Rozier, we were like, this is a joke, right?
No,
and
he's never been a joke. Okay. Let's just walk that one back.
But even I also think it's, at the end of the day, like I think Jason Tatum kind of summed it up too nicely. I think he had a quote the other day was like, the shots we're taking, or he said the shots aren't as open this year. Mm-hmm. Which is like, that's just like the market correcting against them.
Because now they have more talent.
So they should be spacing it out.
Right. So they should have more threats on offense. Their shots should be better and more open.
So they lost to...
Paul and I just shrugged at each other.
Yeah, that's just that's how I feel about the Celtics. I mean, I'm just shrugging. Like they'll be fine, but I don't really care or
at
worry about them right now.
What point are we like, okay, if they don't turn this around?
There's no turning around. I mean, they're above 500. They're going to make the playoffs.
But I would disagree, because turnaround relative to expectations. We definitely expected them to have a better start than this.
I don't know about you. I had the Raptors as the number one team in the East.
But you didn't think that Boston would be...
Yeah, that's true. I thought there would be the 2 seeds.
More competitive?
Right.
To the point where we were saying about just like the offense kind of needing to figure itself out, it does feel like it's easier when you have this many offensive like talents and superstars to move the ball in the way that the Warriors do. And I just looked this up real quick. The Warriors lead the league in assists. The Celtics are middle of the road, around the Spurs, Suns, Grizzlies, those sorts of teams. I do think it's a lot easier if you're running in motion rather than maybe running like just like diagrammed set plays.
Sure.
So perhaps there's something they could learn from a team like Golden State. Obviously, everyone can, but I think a team like this, where they're switching on defense and playing like that, like the Warriors in that regard, maybe they can
bring that activity to offense. Yeah,
and just to take it back to where we started, there's numbers and then there's attitude, and I think that there was something about the way in which Kyrie Irving was talking last year about like how he had sort of found his basketball soulmate in Brad Stevens, and that he was enjoying the sport so much, and all these guys who were like kind of their talent level was getting maximized by Stevens last season, and just to see them lose to Denver, which is fine. Several teams have lost to Denver this year, and Irving getting really so like weirdly annoyed by Jamal Murray, I guess running up the score at the end was what his case was? Like,
he was mad that he took the last second shot. He said, if you're going to get 50, do it during regulation. But here's the thing. Why wouldn't you take that last second shot? It's not like he was going to hit an arbitrary number. He was going to hit 50 points if he made it.
Yeah.
That is an
21.
arbitrary number, though,
yeah. And then
what do you mean?
It's one thing to have a negative reaction to that. It's another thing to throw the ball into the rafters.
It definitely felt like frustration getting out.
Yeah,
you know
that was like sore loser written all over.
And sore knees. He's talked about how like he's playing through, but he's talking about how he's playing through this sort
transition.
of this is his knee injuries. He had 2 off-season knee surgeries. He doesn't seem to be like really enjoying it the way he was last year.
No, and his big like statement was to cut his hair, and apparently that was after Tommy Heinsohn basically criticized him for being a little bit overweight.
Yeah,
and it does seem like that's the move now, because John Wall, who's the least original person ever, also did that same thing. It's just like, I'm so serious now. I got a haircut.
Let's talk a little bit about two other teams. The other team that is the other sort of foundational NBA team, the Lakers, who played the Timberwolves last night. I know, Haley, you went to this game.
I went to the game.
Did you go to this game, Paolo?
I was not there, no.
And then Justin obviously wrote a lot about the Lakers today. Strange game, kind of all the best and worst qualities of the Lakers on display. Mm-hmm. I thought it was fascinating how much they relied on Chandler last night, but it was also interesting to watch how much Chandler did stuff that they were lacking.
I want to also say, I think that we should take it as, I don't want to be insulting to their offense, but he assimilated himself so quickly.
Oh, yeah.
For good reason.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Coach Rondo for you.
So simple.
Well, look at what McGee has done.
Their offense is so simple.
McGee is basically just running and dunking, and that's essentially what they need
and
Chandler to do.
And he's proved extremely valuable doing
but
it.
But Chandler's also setting some bone-crunching screens. There were a couple of screens last night. There was a certain level of physicality that I think JaVale will do in spurts, but is easily blown off of the court, in certain ways. And obviously, he's only ever really played 18 to 20 minutes a game.
He's always been the 22-minute guy.
Yeah, and when he was gone, they were playing Kuzma at the 5. They're playing they're playing LeBron at the 5 sometimes. They're just getting bullied. To see Chandler down there, and especially at the end of that game, which was essentially all effort, all tapping the ball out, and almost using the Wolves' worst qualities against them, which is lack of effort, essentially, and getting just dominated by one guy. And I don't think it's sustainable. Chandler looked completely gassed at the end of that game. He played so much, but it did make a little bit of a difference.
Yeah, he kind of fits with their general aesthetic, not only because he basically is an older version than McGee, who's already a little old, but a lot of what the Lakers are doing are off effort, except for LeBron, who's coasting through most of the game still.
Yeah.
It's basically just a lot of young players running with their hair on fire. And it works to a large extent because that chaos creates really fun basketball and really good opportunities. You saw it early in the game, the ball was pinging right off the tip. And I wrote about this today, but they run this play now whenever JaVale McGee wins the tip off, he goes and runs immediately to the hoop for an alley-oop look. And it's just that's the type of game they're running. And I think Chandler, you could just slot him in there and he just fits whatever they want to do.
He brings a lot more, shall we say, girth, if you will. I think JaVale is more on the nimble side of that rim running big man, whereas Chandler can do what we saw him do last night, which was
stuff
basically
Cat
start
into oblivion.
A wall in the paint and be okay, Cat, see if you can get through it.
And it makes a big difference if you're just going to run a pretty rudimentary offense that has some high screens and Chandler's the one setting the screen. I saw a couple guys melt off screens last night when LeBron would just run them off of Chandler and Chandler would just body dudes. Mm-hmm. So it does matter. Let's talk about the dudes he was bodying. What a weird, unfun, and just kind of like a disaster of a team the Timberwolves are, even though they were winning for much of the game.
Yeah.
Even though another big performance from Rose, even though Butler was playing. I can't think of a team that I've seen that seems more disinterested in each other in a long time.
I think Charks put this in Slack, but it is amazing how poorly put together they are.
Yeah.
How just absolutely nothing clicks. And how they're in games, the last 2 games, because Derrick Rose is leading them.
Yes.
Making threes suddenly out of nowhere.
Yeah, Derrick Rose is making threes. Who else was it that had a 3-line last night? Jimmy Butler.
Well, you said Wiggins too.
Wiggins had a 3.
And that is,
Wiggins was shooting them all.
And Taj Gibson.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Had
That's right.
3 threes. And that is just the thing about that is it's abnormal. And it's not going to happen every game. It's not going to happen every 4 games. They're not a good 3-point shooting team.
I think we just got done talking about how complicated the Lakers plan for success is. The Wolves are basically that team. They just don't know it. Mm-hmm. They think they're this grinded out Tibbs defensive team, but they're awful on defense in large part because Tibbs is still trying to play defense as if it were 2012. And they're all offense. And it's good that they're shooting threes because they need those extra points to hang in games. But at the same time, you look at just the general organization on the court. It's really kind of just passing it off to guys and someone getting hot.
And it's kind of they realize it towards the end as the game goes on because they have so much enthusiasm at the start. Last night, I was really pleased with how Cat came out and started the game. He dunked over JaVale and then he blocked LeBron. It was really exciting. And then you could just see his effort fade slowly away.
I think that there's something to the disconnect between the way that we read body language and the way that we see things happen out on the court or maybe even notice things in locker rooms versus what they actually are. But I will definitely say that Cat looked like a guy going to work, where it was like he started his day with the best of intentions and with a good attitude.
Had a hot coffee.
And a couple things broke wrong, and he was just like, fuck this. And
took an extra long lunch break.
And you can just watch those guys.
Sounds familiar.
There was on yourself right now.
Yeah. I was telling Justin before we came in here that there was this something I saw a couple times last night was Butler gets the ball at the top of the key, starts to dribble over to sort of like the far corner, draws, I guess, a kind of, I wouldn't call it a very intense double team, but draws the attention of two defenders. Brings those two defenders over to the corner and then just like hands it to a shooter in the corner so that the shooter in the corner is actually triple teamed. And that's the offense.
That's incredible.
And everybody else is standing around looking. And then it's like, oh, maybe Towns again. No, he's not going to get the rebound. Because Towns was getting absolutely worked by Chandler physically.
Oh my God. And like you said, he just so easily looked defeated.
Yes. And then when he was playing with Josh Okogie and Tyus Jones briefly, I wouldn't say that. I don't think he played a lot with them.
What a bright spot.
Josh Okogie.
His body language completely changed.
Don't break him, Tim.
Effort changed. He was up and down the floor faster. He was popping out of the post to like get to spots differently. You could just tell that he fucking hates going to work with Jimmy Butler every day.
I mean, wouldn't you want to go to work with like a coworker who likes you and doesn't make your life hell and say that you're not doing your job right?
Haley is looking right at Paolo right now.
Jeez.
No, there was actually that one play where the ball, I guess the Lakers made a bucket and the ball was like dribbling on the ground and Towns went to go get it and then turned around and made Jimmy go get it. So good for him.
Yeah.
Fighting back.
This is why this whole thing, just like the start of the season for the Wolves, honestly feels like death by like 1,000 paper cuts. Because it's like, all right, like, let's do something. You know what I'm saying? Like, either get rid of Jimmy or like, I don't know. Like,
or pick someone up, sign somebody.
I just think they need to get on with their life. Like,
yeah,
they just
definitely.
Can't stay in this
it's just one of those things that would be the most boring oral history ever because this is or it would actually be very exciting for like that practice. The 6 weeks where Glenn Taylor was like, huh.
Yeah.
It would just be like, what's going on? What are you like? What's the plan?
It turned to November. I go to my cabin all of November. So
that's right.
See you guys in December. I do want to say something positive about the Wolves though. Wow. Last night I noticed that Andrew Wiggins' shot selection has gotten much better. And you know why I realized that? Well, no.
he took 7 threes. He was 8 for 14 from the field.
But I do want to say that I saw him like hesitate a couple times and then he would just pass it off and I was like, Wiggins doesn't hesitate. And then I realized it's because he was like double teamed. But before he would have taken that shot. Last season he would have taken that shot.
Progress.
When you read stories about all these teams that are playing, Morey ball style offenses a lot, and you like, for instance, the Bucks, right? Like, so like all the stuff coming out of the Bucks camp, especially before the season and during the season, it's just Giannis being like, he just wants me to shoot. And if I miss, it's like more valuable that I take the shot. And it's like this, everybody's just imploring like, hey, this is the kind of offense we're running. You're going to miss half the shots you take. More than that, keep taking them. Keep trying. We're going to get better. We're going to get better. You can see like even with Wiggins making better choices shooting wise, when he would miss, it kind of looked like he got like a D on a paper. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like he looked like a guy who was like, I'm going to hear about this. I'm going to get like a tough look from...
I mean,
Tibbs is going to yell at me. Jimmy's going to yell at me. It just looked like there was no room for like the normal failure that takes place 50% of offensive possessions.
That's never ever been Tibbs. I mean, I can see him getting extremely tough feedback for that because I remember when Chris Dunn was on the team and he would make one mistake,
he'd get yanked.
Like threes, he'd get yanked. He'd get benched. And so his like any offensive growth he was going to have got totally stunted.
It's hard to like quantify like chemistry and culture, but it just doesn't feel like a workplace environment where like it's like up to ground for the young players to succeed.
Well, yeah, that's a real failure of the ownership because it's not why you hired Tom Thibodeau in the first place.
Right, and you don't pay Andrew Wiggins, a player who hasn't shown much of anything, the max. And I don't feel sorry for Andrew Wiggins. He accepted all that money and he accepted the responsibility that comes along with it. And at the same time, I don't know if he was in a different culture, if it would matter anymore.
So what do you mean by that? You think that like if Andrew Wiggins is on the Bucks, do you think he's Chris Middleton? Like, I mean,
he would probably be encouraged more to shoot, but as we just diagnosed, like he was doing that pretty freely in the game. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to tell like the advantage of like positive thinking and motivation there. But it just seems like he kind of is who he is. And it seems like he almost struggles to do multiple things at once. I mean, we talked about this on Slack last night. It essentially is just like, if he is looking to shoot, he's not looking to drive. And if he's not scoring, he maybe will focus in on defense. But if he's not playing defense, maybe he won't score. And so versatility is almost like it's lost because he can only do one of those things at a time.
Which really hurts when, like, say switching.
Yeah.
And help defense.
Any observations on Jimmy Butler last night?
I'm just done with him.
Yeah.
Just get him
honestly,
in the uniform.
he is the one constant. Like, he always plays the same, which is so weird. He just doesn't care about anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jimmy Butler here. All right, let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about what makes a good League Pass team, which is not the Timberwolves. Today's episode of the Ringer NBA Show is brought to you by Microsoft Surface. Thank you, Microsoft Surface, for being a sponsor of the show. You need a new device that helps you get stuff done, but is also perfect when you want to catch up on some fun, like streaming live sports or checking in on your fantasy team. Check out the latest member of the Microsoft Surface family, the new Surface Pro 6. Just take the keyboard off and use it like a tablet, or snap it back on and use it like a laptop. And with up to 13 and a half hours of battery life and the new 8th gen Intel Core processor, it's everything you love about the Surface Pro, now even more powerful. Today's episode of the Ringer NBA Show is brought to you by the big homies over at Hotel Tonight. Here is a little insider travel secret from our friends at Hotel Tonight. There are tons of empty hotel rooms out there just waiting to be booked. Did you know that, Haley?
Yes.
Well, that's probably because you're an avid user of Hotel Tonight.
Because I listen to your ads.
Hotel Tonight has partnered with these awesome hotels to help them sell those unsold rooms, which means you get incredible deals. Seriously, if you love scoring amazing hotel deals, you got to try Hotel Tonight. Forget scrolling through never-ending lists. Hotel Tonight shows you a select list of incredible deals at cool hotels that they think you will love. And they even give short profiles of each hotel, complete with all the info you need and pictures of what the rooms really look like. Plus, even though their name is Hotel Tonight, you don't just do them for last-minute bookings. You can book in advance. It's perfect for spontaneous weekend getaways, 3-day weekends, staycations, road trips, business trips, booking a place with a pool, and more. I have used Hotel Tonight multiple times over the last 2 years. I've even got this new habit, Justin, where I just jam up Hotel Tonight and I say, what looks cool? And maybe I go there. Like, I don't tell Hotel Tonight where to go. I say, you tell me where to go. Beach, maybe? Desert? Who knows? Start scoring amazing deals at incredible hotels. Go to hoteltonight.com or download the app now. All right, we are back. Group chat. We're talking about what makes a good League Pass team. And that's because Justin Verrier wrote a really cool piece today about the Lakers. We've been writing about the Lakers a lot, so we're always looking for different ways to talk about them. But I thought that this was a fascinating and very true piece, because aside from our sort of LA hipster elite media bubble, I think that this is a fascinating team outside of LeBron because of this, for all the reasons you lay out in your piece. So can you tell me a little bit about when you first kind of started thinking about this? Like at what point you were like, oh, this team is kind of like catnip for League Pass.
I think it started in the first preseason game. Like we were talking about earlier, that one play was the first play they ran was a alley-oop off a tip-off. And it really just trickled down from there to the first game they played in Portland was close and was competitive. And then pretty much every game they played ever since has been competitive. And if you look at like what we're looking for in a nightly watch, it's just teams that go back and forth, teams that run at high pace. And they really just like lean into that more than any other team, because on top of being just this team struggling to figure out who they are and struggling against every opponent that they have, they're also a LeBron team, which means that there's a lot of drama. They're also a young team, which means that they have all these young prospects we're interested in. And they are a legacy team, which means that everyone expects to compete for the title every year.
Yeah. I mean, it's the fact that LeBron still has that, It's not even appointment viewing. It's like the circus is in town. It's to say, like, I remember like so vividly from when Miami first started playing in that, when he'd gone to the Heat, and they would come to towns and it would just be like kind of like the sporting event of the week. It would just be like, are you going to go see Miami? You're going to go see Miami? You're going to try to get tickets to Miami?
Have you read like old like NBA history books? Like that's how it was with all of the like with Will and like with Russell. And like, and even before then, like when it was barely televised, like that was always how it was. Yeah. And now that's like, I mean, yeah, that's always been LeBron.
But it's kind of got a new layered this time because teams actually, they can beat LeBron.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like most times when LeBron, I mean,
Yeah.
he has slow starts in the past. Obviously, the Miami started out like kind of like, I think 5-5 or 9-10 or something like that, and then went on to be amazing. But that first Cleveland year was really bad. Then they were like a 50-60 win team or whatever. But this year, it's the year that you're kind of like, oh yeah, anybody has a shot at these Lakers.
And
For
that's
precisely
because-
the reason that you kind of laid out, which is that
Right.
like there's going to be so many possessions and there's going to be so much live ball action off of missed threes kind of that it does get up and down and you can get back in games on them.
And that's why I think the point about how close games are, like no matter what, like if they're down 20, they'll probably come back and like make it close. And like I think that's such an appealing concept. And that I think has been the most appealing thing to me is like not only can you beat LeBron, but even if you're beating him, he will try and come back and possibly like beat you in the same span of a quarter. You know
Hell,
what I'm
I'll go a
saying?
step further. Last night it seemed like LeBron was helping Minnesota get back in
God,
it.
I'm like, stop running up with a defender in your face and like taking a pull-up three.
He was just like looking
It
off.
never
Ingram was wide open a
works,
couple of those
LeBron,
times at the
like,
end of games. Like
so
Ingram
hard
would
to
be
defend
standing
you.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, like literally me, not like a defender. Like, okay, here's what I have to say about that. I think that in Miami and even in Cleveland with Kevin Love, the difference was it was more like what Boston's going through now. They have the talent. They just have to figure it out, right? And to
Sure.
Miami, much more of a degree than in Cleveland when you were
Sure.
Now I'm like, no, you guys are a league pass team because you are like a compilation of past league pass teams. Like you have Lance Stevenson. That's the reason we watch the Pacers. You have Michael Beasley. When he would go off, like that's the reason we'd watch the Knicks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that is, now you don't have that, oh, we're going to figure it out because we're all really good.
Yeah, and there's something about LeBron kind of being in his senior moment here, where it's almost like the
God,
league.
he looks so annoyed.
Yeah, it's like he is almost existing on a different like plane as the rest of his team. I described it as almost like being the instructor at a fantasy camp, where it's just like you're just looming over the entire team, and you're technically in control of everything that's happening. But at the same time, if they screw up, you're probably just going to yell at them and just blame them for doing it.
There is like a feeling, even going to the games and like even being inside the locker room, that you get that feeling. I mean, you've been there, you've seen like it's like a mass crowd to LeBron, and then it all kind of spreads out to the other players, but you know, for post game, and he just stays there and he's going about his business and doing his things, but he kind of like lords over it. It's really weird.
I think that what we're getting at though is this. Basketball doesn't owe us entertainment necessarily, but I do think that like football and with the spread offenses there and like in European soccer where it's very in vogue to have these kinds of blitzing, counter-pressing teams that are always going like taking as many shots as possible over the course of a game. Baseball, I can't really account for baseball, but more and more sports are pivoting towards being like the most entertaining possible versions of themselves.
Well, baseball's trying to speed up.
It's trying.
So I guess maybe
I would point you to a few playoff games where I feel like I aged 2 years during like a pitching change.
I fell asleep during at least 3.
Yeah, but it is interesting to consider like what a league pass team is when so many teams are trying to play so fast and play so entertaining. So let's go beyond the Lakers. Let's talk a little bit about what we look for when we're looking for a league pass team. And I think it's actually worth mentioning that a league pass team is not quite the same thing as you have to watch the Warriors tonight because they, it's like it's your duty as a sports fan to
a league pass
witness
team
greatness.
is like, you don't, like winning is not what makes a league pass team.
Right.
Right. Like I kind of think sometimes I think of a league pass team as like a great episode of House.
Okay. No, I hear you saying.
You're like, wait,
because it's on.
it was a safety pin in his esophagus?
Yeah, it's lupus. It's always lupus. On Tuesdays, or whatever, and you're home and you're just kind of like, well, what am I gonna watch? And then you get this run of, you can have 10 different channels. It's like, what are you going to choose? What's going to provide you with the most reliable level of entertainment? And in a strange way, won't actually demand that you have like a lot to say about it. You know what I mean? Like there is a certain, because I think that is kind of, that is part of it. And you wrote a lot about this idea of the middle and how the middle is sort of looked down upon in the NBA, but that's where you find all the interesting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's basically the team butting up against like the reality of like the world, the real world expectations that kind of the good teams set. Like you can build for a year or two and you could have fun just kind of messing around and turning it all over and playing fast. But at a certain point, you have to kind of figure out who you are. And like there are so many teams in that middle now that are butting up against that and at the same time butting up against a lot of the other teams in the league because they could usually hang for the most part, but a lot of times it can go either way. And so that kind of unknown quality in a league like the NBA, which is probably the most easy to predict out of all of them.
Yeah.
We kind of know what we're getting into most years. I think that is often what I kind of find myself drawn to.
Right. And I think the concept of a league pass team we've kind of created as a mechanism to get through the 82-game season,
sure.
right?
Like,
that's a great point.
For sure. Yeah.
And
I
a
think
lot of
that's
them now
definitely true.
are like, it's entertaining this season because there's a lot of like post tanks.
Yes.
You know, and,
that's
like,
exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People are coming out of the tanks.
Right.
So we like get to figure them out. And that's what I told you guys is like how I find league pass teams. It's like I like to see young guys that I didn't know were going to thrive in this way thrive.
Okay, so give me an example.
So like last year, obviously, like this is a very obvious example, but like Donovan Mitchell and the Jazz were obviously a league pass
shocking
team.
that you went there.
I mean, they were like, we didn't think that they were going to
Yeah.
have good offense. We thought that they were going to totally take an enormous step back. They wound up taking a step forward. Their offense was fun. Their defense was solid. They had all these guys who we just like did not know were going to play in this certain fashion or play this well. And it was beyond Donovan Mitchell. And so like that is what I like. And then this year, I kind of think of the Nets in that way, and not necessarily that they're young, but it's just like 2 years ago, the joke about the Nets was obviously like, who are these guys?
Yeah.
You know, and this year,
Yeah.
like, they're not House, they're like SVU. It's like, you think D'Angelo Russell's the one who did it, and then it turns out it's Harris, and then it's like, it's been Dinwiddie all along. Like, so I love watching them.
I think it's a generational gap that you refer to it as SVU rather than Law and Order.
Yeah.
What do you look for, Justin?
I think that hits on something. I mean, the Kings are probably among the top league pass teams going right now. And I think for the reasons Haley kind of laid out, like we get to see guys that we weren't really sure about. We knew they were good prospects coming in, but they're kind of taking a step forward here. But I think the big part of that is also the pace that they're playing at. I mean, we talked about this with the Lakers before, so I won't belabor the point, but it's just like the ball moves. And especially in today's day and age, even if you're playing 115 possessions, like that might not be enough because there are teams that are playing like 130, like the Kings.
Yeah. I mean, that's also like a basic entertainment thing, right? Too, because like if you're just watching people play ISO, and that's why I think the Rockets are actually rather unentertaining to watch. Aside from like some of the personalities that they have, is especially last season, the amount of ISO. Like it was entirely based on how much you liked Harden's game, and I actually don't like just on an aesthetic level foul hunting. So I kind of just would like zone out when they were on.
Yeah, it's anti-baseball.
Yeah.
Essentially, everything is in motion. Even the Lakers, a team that doesn't really shoot a lot of three-pointers, which would rack up the score, but their ability to put so many passers on the court at the same time, the ball is just moving like constantly.
This is why I like soccer so much,
Right.
because it never stops. And when we get those possessions without stoppage in basketball, I think it's like the peak of entertainment value.
Yeah. So was there any other aesthetic reasons though that you picked teams?
Chris is leaning into the fact that I put in our Slack earlier that I like teams with bright colors. I don't know. I think there's something about a color palette. Maybe I'm just
I just imagine you at home like
By the way, I agree with you.
eating Cherry Garcia,
maybe
listening to the Dead and being like, yeah
Hot
man,
a little
Hornets.
chunky monkey.
look at this neon.
No, I this is crackpot, and I'm just gonna keep rolling with it. But like, I think about how like Portland puts in those like happy lights during the winter, which are supposed to curb like seasonal induced depression.
Haley, do you need a minute?
Cackling right now. But tell me, a team wearing yellow isn't more fun than a team wearing, I don't know, blue.
I guess you're right. I mean, I think that there is like a natural affinity for that.
No, that's true. That's why I find the Hornets so boring.
Right?
Nobody likes teal.
Teal's pretty bright.
Yeah, it's more of like a drab, bright color. I don't know.
Their classic
I'm with
uniforms
Justin.
really nice. The
Well, we
pinstripe
get
ones.
really excited about like when the Heat do their Miami Vice outfit
Sure.
uniforms.
I don't know if that'll make me watch the Heat this year, though, to be honest.
So here's another thing about the Heat. And well, here's the thing about the Heat, and here's the thing about a lot of teams. And I think this is kind of like not always fair because there's so many different factors that go into this, but I really do respond on a pretty visceral level to like if you can detect atmosphere in a game. Like if you, it's just why like first half of Heat games while people are still like getting to the arena is usually pretty dead. I feel the same.
We hate the Heat fans.
I don't hate Heat fans, although
And Rockets fans.
I do like. I grew up in a different era of Heat fans, I think, which was a lot of like snowbirds who come in for the playoffs and are like, Miami Heat, baby. But I would say that I'm not like I can't really watch Detroit games. There's like 16 people in that gym. You know what I mean? And it's like, if you guys don't care, I don't care.
Right. And
unless the
Sixers
Sixers are playing, I'm just not trying to watch.
Yeah.
That being said, I will watch a Utah game. I will watch a Portland game. You know what I mean? Places that
Portland
have like
so much fun in the Portland.
and it's kind of it's kind of hard to overstate this, but like pre-Silicon Valley Oracle was like essentially Cameron every night, even if no matter how bad the teams were. You know what I mean? I still like. I like the Raptors. Like the Raptors have pretty good crowds. Like especially playoffs. It's just absurd. It's more like a soccer crowd when it gets into the playoffs. But I really enjoy the Raptors crowds. And for as much as the product has been bad over the last couple of years, if the Knicks are ever on a even more than 2-game win streak. Their garden's friggin' incredible.
Right. And they also have that nice theater lighting, which the Lakers have, the Nets have, and I think the Clippers have started.
Have they started doing it? I thought the Lakers wouldn't let them do it while they were at Staples. That's like a completely made up thing that I just did, but I thought that was the case.
There are restrictions on the Clippers because they don't own the lease. But yeah, I think this season there's something going on with the lighting.
It's dimmer.
It's not as drastic.
Getting a higher quality stream.
Join me on HGTV where we can talk about this.
The lighting's a little more yellow.
Haley's like watching on like Azerbaijani streams.
Change my IP address so China can't detect it.
It's interesting that you mentioned Cameron. Because of all the league pass traits we've listed so far, we're not a college basketball podcast, but I think like this Duke team hits on like every one of them.
Good call.
They're going to have an amazing atmosphere. They're going to have young guys that like we've known about because of Instagram
RJ and Zion,
yeah.
But now we finally get to see.
They have pace because of how it seems like they're going to play.
Yeah, and at least for like before they go play like the tournament of Atlantis for 6 weeks, which is always the most confusing thing about college basketball. Like college basketball is back, but we're going to the Bahamas for a little while. Sorry, we'll be back in a few months.
Play American like 6 times in a month.
Yeah, but there will be that appointment TV element to it. And, that first North Carolina game will just be like nuts,
Yeah.
What else are we looking for from league pass teams? Anything?
Heat check guy. That was mine. And I think as I've thought about that, I can even narrow it even a little further, which is I need like a fun guard.
Okay.
Because, like if you're telling me that like Blake Griffin's got like 30 through, I don't know, half or something.
And he's doing a lot of spin move layups.
I might turn in, but it's not a thing where like I'm like, I have to turn in. Whereas if you tell me, I don't know, CJ McCollum's got 30 and a half, I might turn in. So I think for me specifically, like these guards that can just like get any shot.
It's the post-Steph world.
Way.
I mean, it's obviously like Iverson. We've been watching these guys for guys like that for a while, but it is the Steph kind of like, I'm blacked out. Like this is going to, everything I shoot is going in is kind of the thing.
There's nothing more fun than a 3-pointer from like 5 feet out.
Yeah.
And LeBron seems to almost be willing to take these more. I can't tell it's because he's like trying to stretch the court or it's just like won't get back on offense.
Yeah.
Just like trying to get back on defense so he doesn't have to run as far.
So can I tell you guys who the league pass team is that you're all talking about? For it checks almost every box.
If you
of what
say
you guys.
Sixers.
No, you can't because they don't shoot well.
I'm not trying to foist my agenda on you.
Can we guess?
Wait, yeah, let's guess. Is it in the Western Conference?
No, okay, well, you can't do that.
Is it in...
Don't ask me the division.
Yeah, I was like, wait,
is it the Thunder?
I don't even know that.
No.
No, it's not.
Well, they have a good crowd.
They have a great crowd. Yeah.
I love that
Good
arena.
crowd.
But I think
Good
everybody else
shooting.
has kind of broken me.
Heat check guy, young people.
I mean,
I don't know about the heat check guy part, but it has everything else.
Portland? No.
The Suns.
The Memphis Grizzlies.
Oh, go away.
Yes. I'm here for this.
I tweeted before the season that there are only 3.
Post-tank, so they're getting better again.
Oh, God.
Mark and Mike are healthy. Jaren Jackson's good as shit. Holy cow.
He is like, I'm going to watch the Grizzlies now.
It's like, what if Marvin Williams had been good? It's just like...
But they also play at the league's 30th ranked pace.
Sure. Yeah. I'm not saying it's like, it's not, I'm not saying it's like a complete perfect concoction here. Good gym, like great crowd when they're into it.
Yes.
Last night they had these powder blue, it basically looked like North Carolina. It's like, cause they had like the parquet court almost, or like the weird hardwood. I don't know. I just thought that they were really exciting. Kyle Anderson is not exactly like a heat check guy, but he can make like cool pocket passes and make stuff happen. You guys don't seem to be buying into this.
I mean,
you're like, hey, the slowest guy to ever play basketball.
You guys come up with one then.
Green grind has returned slightly, but with like a little bit of spice, and that spice is like Jaren Jackson.
It's,
and like
it's bigger ball.
Yeah, they're like, I looked this up earlier and there are way too many stats to get into, but the profile is basically grit and grind, but they shoot more threes.
Yes.
Right, exactly.
Deep
Which
fried
I'm into
grind.
that. I love watching Mike Conley. I think he's got one of the most fun and like unique games, just the way he plays. And like Haley and Justin are not paying attention to me right now, but I will wax poetic about Mike Conley.
Haley just like totally put up a high five and then pulled it away.
Because she realized it was going to make a sound. Yeah.
I don't know.
worth it.
I'm kind of
Podcasting
into that.
101, Justin.
I'm enjoying them. Give me somebody
I
else
see you,
then.
Bobby.
I mean, I said the Kings earlier. Yeah, I think they've been the most fun team to watch thus far.
Are you still saying that?
they've
Like
been
number
really
one
fun.
for you?
I mean, Lakers number one to sell my
Sure,
piece
sure.
on the ringer.com. Go check it out.
Okay.
But then the Kings.
What about you?
Well, it's just like, I mean, first of all, I want to say yes to the Kings because the other thing about young guys thriving who I didn't think were going to thrive or necessarily weren't on my radar or whatever, a rookie having a tough rookie season and coming back and being like, no, guys, wait, I'm good, is so much fun because you just want to root for the young guys.
Fox is great.
So De'Aaron Fox being really exciting is good. I have a lot of heat check teams.
League Pass. He checked.
League pass teams.
One of those is a podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Do
trying
the
to think of
Bucks
one that's
qualify?
specific.
I guess they're too good.
I think the
I
Bucks-
would. Okay, I'll make mine the Bucks because
Thanks.
what else? What we didn't talk about before is that anytime a team is being used differently is also exciting.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
when
I
the
would
new
watch-
system is put into place.
That was
Yeah.
why the Raptors for me were a League Pass team yesterday
Okay.
because you want to watch and you want to find out what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's hard to get. Kawhi is a little too flat personality wise, and I think that the Raptors are almost taking on his persona of just being
Who
like.
said that they wanted Kawhi to come on their podcast? Who was it on the Raptors who has a podcast? He was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna get Kawhi on it."
Well,
and
I
was
think
like,
it's Danny Green.
that sounds
Oh, Danny Green has a pod.
awful.
I think-
Danny, you're gonna get it canceled. What's he gonna talk about?
If he just
Remember
does the
during
laugh, it'll go
Yeah.
viral.
the
That's
preseason
true.
press conference where they were like, tell us a little bit about yourself. We don't know
I'm a fun
anything.
guy.
We're Canada. We're receptive. And he's like, well, I mean, you can't just ask me that. There's a lot that goes
To be
into
fair,
it.
it
You
was
have to
it
be
was like a very
specific.
broad question. But back to League Pass team.
yeah.
I would
Tell
nominate.
me about yourself.
I would nominate.
He couldn't come up with anything for tell me about yourself besides I'm a fun guy and I like
This is the most
basketball.
passionate I've
That's
seen
what I would
him about
say.
anything.
What else was he going to say? I like destroying the legacy of one of the great sporting institutions.
I'm a fun guy is a classic response. Though.
And like
Yeah,
people say
it's
they're
pretty
fun
good.
guys are not fun guys.
Haley
There you
literally
go.
tells me this once a week. This is not a bit. She's done
One
this
time
before.
I was like, wouldn't this piece be fun? And he was like, yeah, I love fun. And I was like, that's what people who don't love fun say.
she's not wrong.
He's not wrong.
Paolo, take us out.
I was just gonna nominate the Pacers.
Oh,
Oh,
I think Depot kind of fits the heat check guy bill, and Haley and I have adopted Demonis Sabonis for some reason.
I love
Sabonis.
What?
He's
We
really
text
fun.
about it all the time.
you text about Demonis Sabonis all the time?
Like I could show you the
We
entire
can show you the
text
receipts.
conversation.
Sounds like a fun group chat.
There's some Sabonis. I think that's where we should wrap it up.
Love to
Right
be
there.
included.
This one kind of got away from me. I got to admit. Thank you for listening to Group Chat. We got
Sabonis!
quarter 3 tomorrow. Read Justin Verrier's Lakers piece on theringer.com. We'll be back next week for Paolo, Justin, and Haley. I'm Chris.
Basketball is very good. Basketball is very good.